Look, I'm not saying I believe in ghosts or anything like that, but I'm also not stupid enough to ignore something that doesn't make sense. And what happened at that house off Fairmont Street? It still keeps me up some nights. I moved in at the start of sophomore year. Cheap rent, close enough to campus, and a room of my own seemed like a win. It was a big house, 4 bedrooms, 3 people already living there. I took the room at the end of the hall, the one nobody else wanted. That should have been my first red flag. When I asked why it was available, no one gave me a real answer. "It just has a weird vibe," one of my housemates said. Then laughed like it was a joke, but he didn't move his stuff any closer to that side of the house. None of them did. At first, everything seemed normal. College life, classes, parties, caffeine-fueled study sessions. But about 2 weeks in, I started hearing things, at night. Not footsteps, exactly. More like pacing. Soft, steady movement across the floor in the room next to mine. That room used to belong to someone named Josh. That's all they told me. Josh moved out suddenly over the summer. Left behind a few things in the closet, but apparently said we could keep them or toss them. I didn't think much of it. People leave in a rush all the time. But then I started getting texts. At first, I figured it was spam. One came through at 2:11 a.m. "Is anyone else awake?" No number, just unknown. I didn't reply, but a few nights later I got another. I wouldn't sleep in that room. I asked the others if they'd been messing with me. They swore they hadn't, swore up and down they didn't even have my number yet. That's when I realized something. The pacing? It was coming from Josh's room, and I knew for a fact it was supposed to be empty. I told myself it was the house settling. That's what people always say in horror movies, right? Old houses make weird noises. But this wasn't creaking or groaning wood, it was movement. Repetitive, measured. Like someone was walking from the door to the window, then back again. So I knocked, just once, soft. I don't even know why I did it. I guess I wanted to prove to myself that no one was in there. But the second my knuckles hit the door, everything went silent. I stood there, hands still raised, not breathing. Nothing. Then, I heard the floorboard directly behind the door creak, like someone was standing there, on the other side, waiting. I backed off. The next morning, I casually asked Sam, one of my housemates, why Josh left. I tried to sound like I wasn't freaking out, but he caught on. His smile faded a little. He just moved out. People do that. Yeah, but why? I pressed him a bit. Eventually, he said Josh had been acting weird, said he was convinced someone was watching him through the vents, that he kept finding his bedroom window open even when he'd locked it. He thought one of us was messing with him, but no one admitted it. Sam laughed it off again and said, I guess he just couldn't handle living off campus. But I noticed something else. When he said that, he glanced, real quick, toward the basement door. Now, the basement was locked. Always had been. None of us had a key, and the landlord told us during move-in that it was just used for storage. Old pipes, wiring, foundation stuff. Nothing important. But that night, I got another text. They come out when it's dark. Basement first. I didn't sleep. Instead, I sat at my desk all night, half focused on a reading assignment, half staring at the hallway outside my door. And just after 3 a.m., I heard the basement door unlock. Click. Then slow, heavy footsteps coming up. I didn't move. I didn't even breathe. I just sat there, frozen in my desk chair, staring at the crack under my bedroom door, watching the shadows shift in the hallway. The steps were slow. Not heavy like boots, more like bare feet. Software, wet. I don't know how to describe it exactly, but it wasn't just the sound of someone walking. It was like the house itself was reacting to it. Creaking, yes, but also shuddering, like it didn't want it there either. Then the footsteps stopped. Right outside my door. I inched my chair back and reached for the baseball bat I kept leaned against the wall. Not because I played baseball, but because I lived off campus and figured a bat was easier than pepper spray. I held it close, trying to slow my heartbeat. Then something happened I wasn't ready for. My phone buzzed again. Unknown. It's at your door. I flinched and dropped the bat. The sound echoed, way too loud in the stillness, and I immediately slapped my hand over my mouth like that would somehow undo it. I reached down to grab the bat again, but before I could, I heard something else. Breathing. Shallow. Uneven. Just inches away. And then the doorknob turned. Just once. Just enough to rattle. I snapped. I jumped up, yanked open the door, and there was nothing. Empty hallway. But the basement door was wide open. I walked slowly toward it. Against every instinct, I leaned over and looked down the stairs. Pitch black. Then, I swear on everything, I saw eyes. At the very bottom, glowing, not reflections, not tricks of light, glowing, pale and blue, like they were underwater. And then they blinked. I slammed the basement door shut and ran back to my room. Locked it, didn't sleep, didn't move, just stared at the door until sunlight started pouring in. When I finally came out the next morning, the basement door was locked again. No one believed me. But that afternoon, I found something taped to my door. No note, no envelope. Just a key. A small, rusted key, labeled B. I kept that key in my pocket all day. I didn't tell anyone about it. Not Sam, not Ellie, not Marcus, my other two housemates. Something in my gut told me not to. Like, if I said it out loud, it would become more real. Or worse, someone would try to take it. That night, we all ended up in the living room watching some dumb movie, pretending everything was fine. And for a moment it was. The laughter, the popcorn, the sound of normalcy. But I kept looking at the basement door, still locked, still quiet. Ellie must have noticed. She nudged me and whispered, "You okay?" I nodded, lied. I was not okay. Around 1:30 a.m., I went back to my room. Everyone else was asleep. I turned the key over in my hand a few times, debating if I was losing it. Maybe it didn't fit anything. Maybe it was all just some twisted prank. But the moment I stood in front of the basement door, I knew it was the right key. It slid into the lock like it had lived there all its life. Click. I opened the door, but this time I didn't go down, I just looked. There was a faint light again, but different, pulsing, like it was breathing. I should have shut the door. Instead, I crept halfway down the stairs and stopped at the landing. The basement had changed. It was bigger, deeper, like it didn't obey the rules of the house anymore. There were old-looking lockers against the wall now, a desk, and a long mirror leaning in the corner. And the air, it was wrong. Cold in a way that bit into your skin, even though the heater upstairs was humming like normal. And then I heard it. Whispers. But they weren't coming from the basement. They were coming from upstairs. From Josh's room. I bolted up the stairs, adrenaline pounding, and I paused in the hallway. Josh's door was cracked open. I didn't leave it like that, and worse. I could see someone sitting on the bed inside, head down, perfectly still, breathing. I should have run. I knew I should have. But when I saw the shape on the bed, motionless, head tilted just slightly toward the floor, it was like my body forgot how to move. My feet were planted. My breath caught halfway in my throat. It looked like a person. Same build as Josh from the one photo I'd seen on the fridge when I first moved in. Except this thing. It wasn't just sitting. It was waiting. I whispered, "Josh?" No response, but he shifted. Not in a natural way. More like a puppet being nudged, like something was reminding his body what movement felt like. Then he spoke. "Why'd you open the basement?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. He raised his head just enough for me to see his face, dry, gray skin stretched thin, like he hadn't eaten or slept in weeks. His eyes were dull, sunken, and when he blinked, they didn't move in sync. He stood slowly, limbs creaking. "They don't like it when you open the basement," he said. I stepped back, 1 foot, then 2. Then he smiled, that wrong kind of smile. Like a human trying to imitate one, but missing all the signals. His teeth were too perfect, too white. And then I heard the door, not Josh's door, the front door. It opened, boots, multiple pairs. Coming inside, I ran, not to my room, not to the basement. I ran out the back door, through the yard, and into the street. I didn't stop until I hit the gas station 2 blocks away and slammed the door behind me. I called the police. They searched the house, said it was empty, no signs of forced entry, no Josh, no furniture out of place. The basement was just storage, they said. Concrete floor, dusty shelves, nothing else. No desk, no lockers, no mirror, no pulsing light. But the part that haunts me? They asked to see the key I said I used. I reached in my pocket. Gone. Vanished, like it never existed. And when I finally got back to the house with the officers, the door to Josh's room was shut tight. Locked, and taped to it was a note. "You weren't supposed to see.